Perfect. Good. We already had a little dry run here until we realized there were some technical issues. So we're happy to finally have some people also joining the session, and welcome everyone to the session on how to simplify operations when using containers. I am going to share my screen so that we have something to look at. Exactly. And we start right away with an introduction round. So I'm very happy to be here with like two other very passionate people about container operations and container logistics. So I would like to introduce Jack to you. Jack has been a partner on our journey here for the past month and since I joined Exchange. So Jack, please introduce yourself to the group.
Hi, thanks, Francie. So I'm Jack, Director of Orange Container Line. I've been in the logistics for the last 15 years. And we talked a lot about our current stage of the branch itself, the industry itself. It's quite like a dinosaur industry, which we would like to see more tech being involved to make all the operation more efficient and also more secure. And that's why I love having Francie also on this journey as well. Thank you, Francie, for having me on this journey. And I would love to share our ideas with you guys as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. As said, exactly, I'm also in the logistics industry for some time now. So my name is Franziska. I am the lead product manager for everything around container operations. I have been in the logistics industry for more or less 6 years, a lot of time more in the trucking sphere, to be honest, and then also some time in the container operation space, so sea freight. Happy to join that I joined Exchange last year in November, and since then have been building software products and tools around container operations together with my colleague Yuri, who has been around longer. Please, Yuri, introduce yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been with Exchange since September 2020. Initially started with building up the operations team into what is now called container operations at Exchange. Originally dealt mostly with container damages, damage settlement, insurance, survey-related topics, and have now passed into product management for the area of container control, which is basically the operating system around the operations. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. We started a little bit late, but we are still going to follow our normal agenda now. So we would like to talk a little bit about the problems in container operations, right? Because like the topic of the session is how to simplify operations when using containers. But the first question arising is a little bit like, what is actually there to simplify and why is it a problem today? So we would like to spend some time on this. And then in the second half of the session, we want to talk with Jack about how we can envision a future in container operations and how maybe also technology can help us reaching that future. So yeah, stage is yours, guys. I'm going to put in some sticky notes here so everyone can read a little bit. Exactly.
Cool. So Jack, I thought if you can give us a little bit of an intro, maybe talk a little bit about what and who is Orange Container Line, what is your core business, and how do you operate right now? We're starting,
Sure.
And we can go deeper into operation topics.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Yuri. So Orange Container Line, we are a Dutch-based MVOCC operating with our own fleet of our own containers, which we have purchased, as well as third-party leasing containers, short-term leasing containers via, amongst others, Exchange. So we have about, at this moment, high 700, so close to 800 units of our own, which we are operating between Europe, India subcontinent, and Far East. And towards Far East, we are mainly using third-party containers, which we help them bringing the boxes back to China. Volume is roughly between 800 and 1,200 units per month, all 40-foot high cubes from the Benelux area. We are part of the Van Doorn and de Roo group. As a group, we also have two depots one in Rotterdam, DR depot in Rotterdam, DR depot in Antwerp, are belonging to the same group as well a couple of other business units like MFOCC to the US. We have our own rail service connecting North Europe to inland Germany, even up to north of Italy as well. And that's a nutshell about Orange Container Line and the parents behind it.
So quite a lot of containers that you have there operating with your own and leased ones. How is your team structured right now? Do you have a specific operations team dealing only with container management?
Well, we started the company 2 years back with me, myself, and I. And now, fast forward 2 years, we have 2 ops team members who are with me, as well as some shared finance guys as well.
I've seen quite often that the operations line and commercial lines can get a bit fuzzy. What exactly is it that the container operation people work on at Orange?
So it's mostly follow-ups, like when we have certain business and there's always our ongoing business flow, like once a deal is closed, we have to pick up on time. One of the things what I think makes us unique is we have certain fixed slots, fixed timelines. So whenever we accept deals or exchange, we also mention, or most of the time we already advise as from when we start the pickup. So there's a clear idea for the supplier when they can expect boxes to start getting out. Is it this week? Is it next week? Is it in 3, 4, 5 weeks? Sometimes we are fully booked for the next 3, 4 weeks. So that part, the planning itself, that belongs to the ops guys. To make sure we do what we say. Like if we say, hey, the boxes will start pick up in week 44, we will have to make sure that happens as well.
I guess it can get gruesome when you have to exactly aim at a specific week and a specific time slot. You said you were at first it was you yourself and you. So you kind of also got the first-hand experience in these operations. If you really had to describe it in 3 words, how would you describe container operations as an area?
Well, yeah, that's a difficult part. So I would say, we have a lot of follow-ups, emails, and problem solving. Those are 2 words actually. And the last will be, I think, planning.
I'm happy to hear there is no fax machine involved in the process. Good.
Let's
Nice.
make sure we ask a discussion also when we talk about the future. So we see how we envision this, and let's see how we get there.
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully without any of these. Good, cool. And I was hoping if you could in the next step maybe I would like to take a deeper dive into operations. And
Sure.
if you could take us maybe through a one scenario of what it means moving containers from A to B, what are the different stakeholders and so on. So can you paint us a picture a little bit? So what are these different people that you need to talk to in the process and so on?
Right. So we are in between a couple of parties, like the ocean carrier, the carrier itself, the terminal, depot, and the supplier. In some cases, it makes our life a bit easier because most of a lot of containers are ex-DR depots, so we can check in advance about the supply, what's going on. In other cases, for example, in Duisburg, we always have to check with the depot about the release reference. Are these correct? Are they known? So that's the first step, what we are doing.
And then I guess you start planning for a pickup at that moment.
Correct.
And are you in contact with the truckers then on?
Yes. So the trucking company thereafter, once the reference is correct, or at least if the reference is known, if the reference is correct, doesn't always mean or a reference is known doesn't always mean it's correct. So when the reference is known with the depot, we start planning the giving out to the trucking company, the barge operators start moving physically start picking up the containers, moving the containers from A to B.
And I guess in the process after that, there's a big gap during the voyage, especially if it's going as China or to Far East. In this big gap, in this big process, do you still keep up with the container? Is there something you need to maintain, or you just let them be for the next 60 days, 30 days?
Well, that's a complexity of the business itself. Like if we have a couple of encountering like change of destination, it happens. We are a moving commodity. The commodity is being traded. The buyer might want to have, the new buyer wants to have to a different depot. In the past, we did a lot of steel cargo, which we have seen a lot of change of destinations. If the price changes, fluctuates, they want to change of destination. So those need to be tracked. At a certain point, it's possible. Up to there's always a deadline. For example, 5, 6, 7 days before vessel arrival, it's not possible anymore. So that need to be tracked as well.
Mm-hmm. How do you track all of
unfortunately.
this? Yeah, unfortunately. How do you track all of this?
That's a difficult part. That's the challenging part. That's always by Excel or via the software, the possibility from the carrier. Like once you log into their dashboard, you can see the ETA, ETS, all the data related to that particular shipment. So we are always using a third-party program, and that means we have to look into several carriers, several terminals. RWG in Rotterdam, we have already 3-4 terminals which we need to track, and there are at least 3-4 carriers to follow up with, and they all have their own softwares.
So basically logging in every day in each one of them and then following up, updating your Excel spreadsheet.
Unfortunately, not every day, because that will be a very time-intensive and labor-intensive job to do, which we simply don't have the manpower and don't want the manpower for it to do that. So we have to compromise, like if there are no requests for change of destination, we just leave it as it is, going from, as expected, from Rotterdam to Ningbo, and we can't trace in between.
And then in between you just leave it be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
At this moment, yeah.
And I guess you have 2 full-time colleagues working on that, but how much time would you say that it actually consumes to track one container, or maybe how much time did you have to spend for a full-time employee?
I think these guys are, the tracking itself, the follow-up itself, it's at least 30 to 35% of the time just to follow up what's happening. And that includes, of course, when there are questions of whereabouts of the container, that's in this as well. So at least 30 to 35, 45%. Yeah.
Okay, and we've been talking a lot about problems and complaining, but if you go into a new shipment, do you already know that you can expect some problems? What problems are arising the most for you to move a container from A to B?
So we have been doing this for a couple of years, last 2 years quite intensively, and we have learned our lesson as well. For example, what I've just highlighted at the beginning, when a reference is known, the release reference to a depot is known, it doesn't always mean it's ready for pickup. We have encountered when the reference is known, we check in advance. We are calling the depot, personally calling the depot if the reference is known and they confirm it's known, but meanwhile, multiple containers has been assigned to multiple references. So at the time when we start picking up the container, halfway, the depot is empty. There are no boxes available, or boxes are stacked in. Actually, it's day to day. This morning, we have some boxes which are stacked in the depot. There are sufficient containers as well, but we just can't pick up the unit.
How does that problem-solving process then look? You're on the phone, sending emails. What is the medium you're using? So you're calling back and forth between multiple parties, or?
Exactly. So first of all, that's a very stressful situation, because like this morning we had 5 trucks waiting at the terminal, at the depot. Unfortunately, at our own depot, so I can't blame anyone else. But the boxes were stacked in, and we can't get the boxes. So it's constantly calling, trying to find a solution, trying to get some other reference, getting the trucks. Eventually, we had to divert the trucks. 3 out of 5 had to divert to a different depot. But that means 5 trucks times 2 waiting hours each, plus additional mileage to a different depot. So cost-wise for these boxes, we're out of pocket.
So it's not only frustration, it's not only time in the end, it's also money, which is...
Yeah, absolutely, because our margins are quite thin, especially doing this business. For us, it's the volume. And once we have a waiting hour, that actually means we're out of pocket.
It seems like a lot of liability for you in incurring additional costs that can eat up the margin for a deal potentially.
Absolutely, that's why I love what we are doing at this moment, just to have more things streamlined, make things more efficient and more reliable and secure about the pickup reference, the depots, the trackabilities. So it's also a part of cost saving eventually.
Yeah, definitely, and at least saves you some nerves. I would like to go on to the next step, and as we're already kind of eating up to our time, and there's a small thinking exercise that we always like to do. You were initially saying you have 800 containers of your own and around 1,200 additional release, so that's 2K more or less. And the question that I would have is, if someone tomorrow gives you a call, big new customer, and offers you to do a deal, but basically would offer you to do a deal of 2,000 more containers that you would need to get. And let's say from the commercial side, no problem, you get them. What would that represent for you from operational perspective? How can you imagine your life? Would you, even if you're making nice money, would you still refuse it? Yeah, can you put yourself in these shoes for a second?
Yeah, well, the 2,000 units, it's per month, by the way. Yeah, like you said, it's on the management, it's a little bit more even. It's movement per month. So in total, it's a journey of 3 months. So it's going to be roughly, times 3. So around 5,000 to 6,000 units, 10,000 TUs simultaneously on the management. And when a customer comes to us, that means they need a solution for a problem. And I would never refuse to help someone out. So like you said, from a commercial standpoint, from pure personal point, I would say, okay, let's get it done. And we'll see eventually how to solve the problem. And one of the last resource I would like to use is adding more headcount. We have talked about liability. That's one. Also, the possibility of getting staff, there's always a delay factor. When a customer comes to us, they have a problem, they would need 2,000 units more. That will be instantly, because that's something what they are doing currently. And when adding staff, it takes 2 months plus training. It's going to take 4 or 5 months before we can even be up to that pace. So that's why I would like always to find a more efficient solutions using tech, using big data, using trackabilities instead of adding headcount. But coming back to the question, yeah, absolutely. When someone tells me 2,000, 20,000, we'll do it.
I remember we were talking earlier, and you said what you enjoy the most is leaving at 5 on Friday. Do you still see it happening with this?
Well, that's eventually the goal. Of course, having a healthy work-life balance. I think a lot of logistic professional knows the feeling, like the struggle. It's actually more a struggle to find a correct work-life balance. So I have a daughter of 7 weeks old, and well, I've been working from more or less the second day of her birth. So yeah, that's something we try to put very high on our agenda.
I guess different time zones are not very helpful there. Even if you put yourself into an 8-hour bucket,
Yeah.
it's still you'll have China waking up very early and so on and so on. Good. So to conclude, this would be a little bit of a nightmare, but I guess good for the business.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to see how it fits within our. Of course, we can't lose ourselves in work, and eventually, the goal is just to have a healthy work life and to work to have that in place, and to help others out as well, for them to have this proper work-life balance as well on their from their side. But the goal is to have our own work-life balance correct, and for our staff, of course.
In the end, that's going to leave the most satisfaction for you, and I guess also for the customer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this part. This was more complaining and talking about problems, which are obviously there, and we have to put them out. I would maybe now hand over back to Francie for the next part, where we might talk a little bit about the future of container operations and container logistics, and how we can imagine this to look like in the years to come.
You kind of already tackled this a little bit. I'm once again seeing this and getting this summarized, and every time still a little bit shocked on how things are already done in this industry. But also happy to change this. So Jack, we had these conversations also sometimes before already, and you know, you have a lot of big plans for the future. But if you would think now, like now we say, okay, we have this big deal coming in, right? And you say that of course you would never let your customer down, and you would do it, but you also want to stay efficient and be with your kids, right, and with your family. So how would container operations work in the future? What would you need for this? So how would you envision it so that this stays actually efficient and you would be able to grow your business?
Well, two sides, of course. It depends where we are located. We are a Dutch-based company, and I'm proud of that. Also, with my personal background, born in China, living in Holland. If I was in other areas of the world, I would love to have 30 people in a row having a nice big office, but that's not my personal goal, because in Holland the costs are quite high, and secondly, I don't think that's the most efficient part. So I would see to have a team like what we have right now, which is very tightly knit. We know each other, we understand each other, we don't even have to talk to each other to know what's going on, to keep the efficiency by using a platform, to scale up using the technology, what's possible. Like we have discussed this many times before, there are a lot of possibilities already available, like what we have just highlighted, the trackability of containers, how to track the containers. We are doing it by using third-party software. We are talking about carrier software, but those data are already accessible to us and everyone else. So how to tap into that business? Once that possibility is there, we can scale up without adding headcount.
So you're saying you would like to keep your team small, so that you like stay
Absolutely.
like I'm sure you have like a proper team culture. I can imagine this. You want to keep the team small, but nevertheless you want to grow your business, right? And you say that using technology to stay connected and up to date. Maybe just like a few more seconds on this. When you say like you want to use technology to stay connected and up to date, do I imagine this also like in my world, like building software, being in a young or like in a startup company like Exchange, right? We can work from anywhere. We are connected all the time through technology. Do I have to imagine this the same way?
Yes, that will be my ideal situation. Like when wherever we are actually right now very flexible on the location itself. Since the COVID hit, we have luckily our entire work area is built so we can work from location, any location. Accessibilities to our desktop. I mean, all our desktops are online, so we can log in wherever we are, any part of the world. That's first of all. And secondly, for us is managing the container operations. Although we have access to our email, we need to have the trackability of the containers, of the reference, the ETAs, ETS. Right now, we are having, for example, 160 bookings going on. We have to keep them one by one, basis of the ETA, so ETS, ETA, to keep them on the track. Like, okay, when are the vessels arriving? What's happening? Is the ETA still correct? Do we have to update the ETA? What would be for our own boxes? What would be the detention? We are relying to a certain numbers of agents in other locations. So in Holland, we have our own offices, but other locations we are using agents. We have to rely for the inputs from agent. There's again a delay effect. Also, we are not sure if the data are correct, if all boxes are mentioning. So the risk of losing containers, those kinds of it's very challenging to scale up if we don't have a proper tool for that.
So you say having a proper tool for this is one thing, right? Like having a tool. But the other thing, what I hear from what you're saying, having a tool, is that also, of course, like all this information that you have to collect. And you said earlier, right, that you can actually not even go every day and check the container location and so on from the different websites, right? So are you expecting and envisioning that this information then automatically flows into the system and everything is in one place?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we liked using Exchange at this moment, the leasing module, because all the data are fed automatically. So when boxes arrive at a certain location, it feeds into that request automatically. For example, when boxes arrive in Xingang in platform Qingdao, and there's a change of destination, which we have changed to the carrier, but didn't update on our own high-tech Excel sheets. We are still using a lot of Excel. There are still some pros for that. If we didn't update that, Exchange is updating that for us. It's reflecting back on the request itself. So yeah, with the right data, with the correct tools, with the certainty, we can trace our boxes, whereabouts of our boxes. We can scale up our business. Not before that. Well, at least that's my personal opinion. We are not scaling up before we have the proper tools.
I would talk about this for 3 more hours, I would say, but we're slowly running out of time.
Yeah.
But to summarize this, so what you say is like, okay, having a deal of like, for example, another 2,000 containers to be handled from your client, you would never let them go, right? But also you would not miss time out with your kids. So you envision a future where we have like tools where actually all this information is connected and in one place. Maybe one more sentence to this, because I think that's something that most of us can imagine, and we all know that not just Exchange, but many companies are going in that direction of making sure that different data sources are connected. but also these problems that you mentioned here earlier, right? That there isn't, for example, like all this problem with like release expiry, containers cannot be picked up, the trucker is waiting in front of the door. This is all topics where I think transparency is very important. And from the research that we did the past months, where we also talked about, right, from my very personal perspective and looking at this industry, I think having a platform where all of this in one place is, of course, like a dream and a vision that we all have. But then also having this as a software where you can actually have your actions done, right? Like, I mean, yes, it's normal that a release expires, right? And it's normal that sometimes a trucking company calls. But I think the future lies a little bit in then being able to see this very quickly and then act on this very quickly and efficiently, if you agree.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things what should not happen is release are sent to the depot and boxes are not able to pick up for whatever the reason. One of the reason is maybe you have released double the container, or there are 10 containers released, out of which in the depot 4 are available, 6 on the repair, 2 are authorized for repair. So in fact, you do have sufficient containers, but they are not available yet. So all these at this moment, it's purely manual work from everyone who are sending releases to the depot, being from their own system via EDI, but it's still a manual action. Once we have a location where we send the actions from a consolidated platform, those issues will be eliminated. That should not be possible, releasing more containers than there are actually in the depot.
Wonderful. So data is in one place. You just need to act if something actually happens. Enough time for family. I assume from this case of having 2,000 more containers in one deal, I guess, but that's something that was just my assumption. But if you would have more time, and let's say everything stays super efficient, because also if we manage the rest of your containers very efficiently, how else would you like to spend your time? Would you spend your time more with your clients, or even like building up different partnerships? Would you extend your business different regions, or?
Absolutely, that's the next step, to expand indeed to other regions, locations as well. So right now we are focused very much on Benelux, and but there are a lot of depots who are over full in other locations as well. So that's something what we have on mind as well.
Wonderful. Jack, thank you so much. I'm very sad that we are running out of time. We had, in theory, more slides coming up, but I'm jumping to the thank you slide now. What we will do is, so for the audience, Jack, Yuri, and I, we worked on with other partners as well, and other companies on building, obviously, some software and exchange. I mean, we're researching all these topics. So if you're interested in exchanging more, just reach out to us and send over an email or go to your account manager in case you're already a contact from us. If not, then just shoot an email to the organization of this event, so we can exchange on this. And if you're interested in learning what Exchanges is doing in order to like get a little bit more to this target future, then also reach out to us, and we're very happy to just exchange with you and also introduce you to the stuff that we are doing. I say thank you very much to Yuri and Jack. It was a pleasure one more time. Enjoy your time with your family and with your little kid. Yes, and I think we're ending this then here. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.